Hello, a great day to you and to everyone. Today I'm going to talk about why are cells small. To begin with, let us review the characteristics of living things. The first mentioned characteristics is that all living things are made up of cells. And we all know that cells are the basic units of life. Why do I need to say this again? Well, for us to survive, we need a cell. A cell that is unable to interact with the environment. So, how do we survive by cells? Well, cells need materials. We could call them nutrients, I suppose, like oxygen and food. They also need to get rid of things like a waste, because if they didn't get rid of it, they'd be poisoned and die. Actually, there are two concepts that affects why the cells are small: the surface area and the volume. Let's have a simple example: a loaf of bread. The surface area of the bread is crusty, and it has 6 faces: the top, the bottom, the front, behind, and the 2 sides, which we could measure in square units. The volume of the bread is how much space does it take up, and we would measure that in cubic units. Now let us have an example. We have a cube that has a dimension of 2 by 2. Its surface area is equivalent to 24 centimeters squared, while its volume is equivalent to 8 centimeter cube. So its surface area to volume ratio is 3:1. Now let's have another example. Next, we have a cube that has a 4 by 4 dimension. We doubled up the sides from the previous example. The surface area is 96 centimeters squared, and the volume is 64 centimeter cube. Now, the surface area to volume ratio is 3:2. So by there, we could see that as the size increases, the surface area at the volume also increases. In other words, it is directly proportional with each other. But I want to emphasize here that volume increases more than the surface area. And you can see that in the two given example of ratio, which is the first one is 3:2 and the second one is 3:1. So meaning, smaller cells have a larger surface area, and larger cells have a small surface area in terms of ratio. And how do we interpret this? Inside the cell, this is where the metabolic process happens, as I've mentioned before. The bigger the cell, the more metabolic activity occurs, and the problem is the surface area is not large enough to cope up with the demand. So this is the sole reason why cells are small, since the smaller it is, rather, coping with the demand is not hard. It's not that hard, since it has a large surface area. Now, to conclude, all in all, cells are microscopic to maximize their surface area in ratio to their volume. If there is a large surface area to volume, it is highly efficient at exchanging materials such as nutrients and waste with its environment. So that would be my presentation about why cells are small. Thank you for listening, and see you again.